What's the feeling around college volleyball? I'm sure you got friends around the sport. How what's the feeling around the season?
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's kind of all over the place with it, to be honest with you. Everyone's obviously got different opinions and ideas of what should happen and what shouldn't. But I think some of us are hoping for a fall season. Some are hoping that it gets pushed to spring. But in the end, we're not the ones making the decision, so it's a little tough. But it's kind of hard to imagine that things could happen and everyone can stay safe without there being a vaccine. And we don't know everything about the virus, so we're still trying to figure things out. But long answer to a short question. I'm not sure. Everyone's all over the board.
What about with your team specifically? I'm sure players are asking you questions all the time. How has that been, kind of trying to answer their questions without many answers?
Right. It's been good. We're pretty fortunate as a staff. We've got a great group, and I think they understand the situation's really fluid. And anytime we get new information, we pass it on to them right away, so they're well informed. But they've got a pretty good understanding and grasp on the situation that there's too many unknowns to be, I guess, chatting about specific things that we can set in place for months to come. But they've been doing good, and I think the biggest thing is being prepared and having plans for a bunch of different scenarios that could happen. And it's going to be interesting. If this season goes in the fall, the team that's going to be most successful is the ones that are, being able to adjust the situation at hand. And we talk about that a lot as a group. We got to be ready for anything, and we got to be ready to play good volleyball and stay healthy as possible.
You got a loaded senior class. What are the conversations like with your seniors, knowing that this could have been a real opportunity for you? And now, like, seasons, it could still happen, but
right,
with all the uncertainty and to see what's already happened with spring sports, how I guess eager are they to get out there, or how are they feeling?
Yeah, they're bummed that things aren't going as planned, and we would normally, we'd obviously like to have a normal season for them in their last year, but they're coming to terms with it's not going to be the case. And I think they're doing a nice job of dealing with the uncertainty and dealing with the frustration that comes from that, and really just finding ways to be prepared on their own, because everything right now is voluntary activity. But I think they're doing right things and finding ways to be prepared, so when we come back and can train as a group on August 7th, they're ready to go, and they're feeling good physically.
I saw, Arizona State swimming team, they decided to just all redshirt.
Right.
Well, is that even a conversation for you guys, or is it a wait and see? Is there like a deadline to do that, or?
Yeah, so not necessarily a deadline, but the moment you step foot on the court during a match, you've lost that opportunity unless you get injured throughout the season. You can get that medical red shirt, but it hasn't been a conversation yet, and it's not even really one we're having as a staff. We want to prepare to have everybody ready to go on our roster, and if we do play, again, there's more uncertainty with who's going to stay healthy. Is anyone going to get COVID? Is anyone going to succumb to a sprained ankle, or God forbid, anything worse than that? So everyone's got to be ready, and there hasn't been talks about that yet, and there could be, and we're ready to have those conversations with our girls. But I think everyone on the roster is too excited to be playing this coming fall to even be thinking about that.
Are they on campus right now?
I think a decent amount of them went home. So last week was kind of their last week of doing voluntary activity with our strength coach. And after that, this week, everybody went home. I believe there's a couple girls still in town, but a good amount of girls went home. We don't have to report till the 6th. So, they got a little bit of time left before everything gets going 100 miles an hour here.
What, when the SEC decided to push everything back to at least August 31st, yeah, right, August 31st, how did that kind of change your life and the volleyball team?
Yeah, so our first competition can take place on September 1st, and we were actually planning on being at Illinois State for a preseason tournament that last week of August. So that tournament got cut out, which was a little unfortunate. We had some good opponents there, but it gives us another couple days to train, which is great. And I think that's something that's going to be invaluable in this time, because we were hoping that the NCAA would allow us to work with the girls over the summer a little bit since spring got cut. But obviously that's not the case. So any more additional training time we can get to get people back in shape and then kind of refine skills individually and then as a unit, we'll definitely take. So that so far is really the only thing we've had to adjust for.
Just looking at your schedule, all the non-conference games says TBA. Are those kind of all up in the air right now? Do you think that they're possible to play?
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to depend on the conference. A good example is last night. UNI's conference, Missouri Valley, they decided to go conference only, and we were planning on playing at UNI the third weekend of preseason. So, that one got canceled, and Northern Kentucky, same thing. So it's really who can play non-conference matches, and we're planning on playing Creighton as well, but the Big East came in and decided the same thing. So we're waiting to hear from, Commissioner Sankey, hopefully by the end of the week, to see what his thoughts are and if we can be competing in non-conference play this fall. And if we are, we're going to try and schedule as many people as possible. But to be honest with you, it doesn't sound too great.
So September 23rd, you think would be the realistic start date for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of September, obviously, is when we'd be able to start playing matches. And, hopefully we can fit in some non-conference matches. But, yeah, you're right. If there's no non-con, then we start with Florida at home. So it'll be interesting.
What's travel going to look like? What are the conversations you've had with Jim Sturk about what you guys can and can't do?
Yeah, so there's been some pretty significant budget cuts to the department. And to be honest with you, normally we're pretty pampered. And any SEC game that we play away, we charter to. And, that's not necessarily going to happen this year. We'll be flying commercial, and we'll be driving to any match within 9 hours. So the travel will be a little rough this year, and it'll be tough on the girls academically and, to be honest with you, physically, because sitting on a bus for 9 hours isn't really great. But we're going to have to be tough. And like I mentioned, the team that's going to be successful is the one who best adjusts to the situation. And this year is going to be very uncomfortable regardless of, the layout of the schedule. But, we got to be good. We got to be good. So travel is going to be tough, but we also got to be tough.
So they put you on a commercial flight, like with other passengers?
So again, being discussed, and we've got our budget set, and we're trying to figure that stuff out. And, as of now, certain airlines are requiring the social distancing anyway, leaving the middle seat open. So if we can find ways to travel safely, we'll be doing that. And if we can't find ways, I know the athletic department's going to come in and say, hey, we got to charter this one just to keep the athletes safe. But like I mentioned in the beginning, it's hard to plan things out, a couple months in advance here. It's probably one of those things where, we travel next week and we're planning this week for that travel. So we're going to have to be incredibly malleable, and we're going to have to work with what we got.
What if any conversations about like a volleyball bubble? Is that even a possibility, you think?
Yeah. I don't think so. And, you think about teams that we've got in the SEC, right? You got Florida, hot spot. You got Texas A&M, another hot spot. And it's, I don't know, not really in conversation. And really the only thing in conversation right now is what's our schedule going to look like? Because the NCAA came in yesterday and cut our minimum requirement for contests in half. So now to count 2020 as a season, we only have to play 10 matches rather than 19. So does that mean a single round robin SEC play? What does that mean? We're not quite sure. So again, it's going to be one of those game time decisions where they say, this is what you guys are doing, and we're going to have to be ready to go.
How would you feel if the NCAA came out, or maybe the SEC came out and said football can play, but you guys couldn't? Like, is that a possibility you've thought about if that were to happen?
Yeah, and I mean, we'd be bummed, obviously, but I think we're not ignorant to the fact that football keeps everything alive, right? And we obviously, regardless of the sport at Mizzou and regardless of the sport at any university, I want the athletes being able to play in a safe environment, because I know that's what the athletes want to be doing. And if we can find a way for them to compete safely and keep athletes, staff, and spectators safe, then I think that'd be fantastic if they could find a way for football to go. Because when it comes to money, they keep programs afloat, and we want sports to stay alive, right? And collegiate athletics is something that's so special. We got to be finding ways to keep that going. And if they can do that with just having football going and postpone us, then it would be a bummer. But I think it would be for the greater good for sure.
I talked with Steve Beazer and Larissa Anderson a few weeks ago, and they talked about how they wanted their players to like stay away from the football team. Is that something that you maybe preached as well when they were doing the voluntary workouts?
I think it's not just the football team. I think we've got to do a good job of not being incredibly social, and it's pretty tough for kids this age. And I remember when I was that age, I was a pretty social person, and we've got to be smart, and we're really encouraging. You want to be keeping distance from even your teammates. When we're lifting voluntarily, they're keeping our girls 6 feet apart. They're splitting racks. I mean, when lifting, so to keep the space there, and really, you don't want to be creating too many relationships, because one person tests positive and that contact tracing comes in, and you got 100 people who've been, one way or another in contact with that person. And, it hurts too many people when you become too social with a virus like this.
Have you thought about, I think this time last year you were just getting the job, and
Yeah.
just a year later, it's like, here we are.
Yeah. It was, it was a wild season last year, being interim for more than half of it. And I'm not going to lie to you, it was pretty stressful. But, getting that tag removed was really nice. And I thought we were kind of in the clear, and God had some other plans. So not so much in the clear, but, figuring things out as we go. And I think this is a pretty unique situation, because no one's been in something like this before, where we've got a virus where we don't have the vaccine for. And, coaching staffs don't necessarily know what to do, and administrations are trying to figure that out as well. So really just finding ways to get better as a unit and as an athletic department. I think our administration is doing a good job. We've got a repopulation team, and they're doing a really nice job of finding ways to keep us safe, keep things clean, and allowing our athletes to, still stay in shape and hopefully be able to compete this fall.
What would you say the players, are they confident going out, and do they want to play? It seems like all of them want to, but is there any hesitation, would you say, from any of them?
I think a little bit. I think one of the things that's been brought up by our players is weekly testing. And, especially for traveling, I think that's going to be something that's mandated anyway. I think you probably got to test negative to compete. Otherwise, you just put other teams at risk, and then you're out for 2 weeks and you lose I don't know how many matches if that happens. So I think that's the biggest thing there. And I think they're coming to trust that universities, especially Power Fives, are doing a nice job of finding ways to keep athletes safe and facilities clean, and create opportunities for them to compete. And as of now, it seems like my girls really want to be out there fighting for an SEC title this year.
Absolutely. Well, let me check my notes one more time. I always write down a bunch of notes, and then I never end up looking at them. That's how it goes. I guess just lastly, your overall optimism for the season, getting to play at least maybe 10 games.
Yeah, and again, it's tough because there's so many unknowns, right? And I think I'm a pretty optimistic person, just kind of from the start, and I'm confident that there's going to be ways for universities and departments to find ways to keep things safe and clean for our girls and allow us to compete. And I think the biggest thing that I'm finding is that the more that I'm focusing on all these uncontrollables, that's when anxiety kicks in. And the one thing I can control is that me and my staff are more prepared than any other staff in the SEC to compete when it comes to training our girls, preparing them for matches physically and mentally. And that's what we're doing every day here at Mizzou. So I think we're doing a pretty good job as a staff, and we're trying to encourage our girls to be focusing on things that we can control, so that, when opportunities present themselves, we're taking advantage of those opportunities. And that's where we're going to find success. So really just kind of keeping our mental discipline sharp, and trudging on. You gotta keep moving forward. And every day is a competition. And, have you beaten anybody today? And I think we've beaten someone today. As a staff, we're prepared, and we're ready to go for whatever comes.
Well, I'm hopeful, that hopefully you guys get to play. August 6th is a week away. So is that next
Thursday.
Week? Next Thursday. So everyone comes back, and then practice. Is that when practices get going for you guys?
Practice is the 7th, the next day. So we're ready to go, and we got practice planned, and we're looking forward to seeing our girls on the court again. It's been a long time.